Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great day, even the 60% of you that have not subscribed to this channel as of yet. Well, I'm going to continue the series that I've been doing so far for a little while now, 43 players in 43 days. I'm going through all the 43 players on the Essendon Football Club list going into 2026. We're looking at the expectations of them, any improvements that we expect, any maybe declines, if it's going to be with age, if we expect them to maintain their form, anything about them going into the next season, where we expect them to play in terms of their position. Is there any changes in terms of where they're going to play? Basically, everything about what we expect and hope to get out of each individual player going into the 2026 season. Well, the next player that I'm going to have a look at is DARCY PARISH. So DARCY PARISH, very important player for us when he's up and going, as we all know. 28 years old he is now, so he's been with us for about a decade. He's a midfielder, of course. He was picked number 5 in the 2015 draft. He's 180 centimetres. Just having a look at who was picked ahead of him in the draft. Jacob Wiedering was picked at number 1. Shaki from Brisbane went number 2. That one didn't really work out. Callum Mills was at number 3. Clayton Oliver was at number 4. Parish himself was at 5. And then Aaron Francis was at 6. So you'd have to say that he's had a better career so far than Aaron Francis, who really didn't deliver, unfortunately, for him, who just got delisted, I believe, by Sydney not long ago. So Parish, yeah, look, whether he's been a win on this investment, it's still up for grabs. Look, he's played 165 games. At his best, he's been All-Australian. In 2021, he had an absolutely fantastic season, played 23 matches, average over 30 possessions a game. You can see here on the screen his output. He actually got moved into the centre in 2021. He was kind of playing other midfield roles, even on the wing a little bit, and forward line work in the first few seasons. Then he got moved into the centre, and immediately he jumped from about 20 possessions a game to 30 possessions a game. And he just looked absolutely natural in there. It makes you wonder why they didn't try him in there earlier. And he had one of the best seasons that an Essendon player has had in recent times. We haven't had many All-Australians. It's only really been Zach Merritt and Parish since 2018. And what we really want, of course, is for him to recapture that form. You'd have to say, based on his career so far, he probably hasn't quite made his money back, if you like, on the investment of a number 5 pick, simply because he was a very high draft pick. That's not his fault. He was picked up that high. But if he can get over his injuries, then he still can do it. He's a very, very good player when he's fit. It's just a matter of if he can get on the park. So he comes out of contract in 2029. He signed a long-term contract a couple of years ago. I don't blame him for signing a long-term contract. At that age, when he's in his mid-20s, that's the most important contract a player is going to sign. So you can understand why he and his agent are going to try to get as much out of the club as you can in terms of salary. I'd do the same thing if I was him. You only live once, and you're trying to get a good deal for yourself from, during the most important years of your playing career. But certainly that contract hasn't worked out so far, it has to be said. He hasn't got on the park for most of it, only 3 games last year. Last year, in those 3 games, he was ranked our 10th best player, only from 10 games, or only from 3 games, so you can't draw too much into it. But just to show his class, he averaged 29.3 disposals, 13.3 contested possessions, and 7 clearances. So we know this guy can play. He's been a very, very good player for a long time, and an underrated part of his game. I know it kind of looks like he's not going that quick, and he can be a bit slow, and that's true. I don't think he's particularly quick. He's actually a reasonable tackler as well when he's in close. I think that's a lot to do with the fact that he's very much an inside mid, and he's a very good extractor of the ball. But he averages about 4 tackles a game as well when he plays. He suffered back and calf injuries last year. In fact, he suffered injuries to such an extent that he actually got third-party advice for what to do with his back. I don't think it was his calf. I think it was his back, because his back wasn't quite right early in the year. And it's very unusual to get third-party advice about an injury, because normally you've got the fitness team there at the club, which is, if they're doing their job, then you don't need any third-party advice. You just get the advice from the football club. But he was frustrated with the fitness department and got that third-party advice, and he eventually got over his back injury to a point. Then the calf flared up. But that's perhaps one of the reasons why the old fitness regime is no longer there. So I'm keen to see what his relationship is going to be with Matthew Innes. I can imagine it can only be positive. We really need him to be Right. I mean, this guy is probably at his best, and I do mean at his best, is probably our second best midfielder behind Merritt. Look, you could argue Durham or Martin, and I could, respect that view if you were looking at who was the second best midfielder behind Merritt. But certainly at his best, and I'm talking at his best when he's not injured, if yes, I know, he's probably really been our second best midfielder. I do understand the negative view on Parish. There'd be a lot of people watching this video right now that don't rate Parish particularly highly. I've seen all those views. I understand them, and I don't necessarily disagree with all of them. It's just a matter of, how much weighting, I guess, you put on each particular negative aspect of his game. Some would say that he gets a lot of cheap possessions. Has the game gone past that type of midfielder, the midfielder that he is? That would be the criticism that a lot of people have of him. Obviously, we know he's injury prone. That's a weakness, but let's assume he can get over that. Some of the other parts of his game that perhaps need work. I mean, look, he's a solid tackler, and I'll defend that to the nth degree. He is a solid tackler, but he can be exposed with the defensive side of his game in contested, gritty roles. He relies on his positioning rather than brute force. So he does tend to get tackles because he plays in close. But yeah, he doesn't have a great defensive side to his game. Look, it doesn't mean he's the worst defender in the world, but it's absolutely not a strength of his. His consistency, he does have flashes of brilliance, but he needs a full pre-season really to sustain elite output. Parish is one of those players that he tends to be at his best after he's played 9 or 10 games. He just needs some players can come in and they're good straight away. He needs a full body of work, a full pre-season, and once he's in the side, he needs to play 3 or 4 games. And once he's played for 3 or 4 games, then he seems to be at his best after that. He builds into the season and gets better. But he does have inconsistency when he's in and out of the side for whatever reason. So I think his injury proneness, lack of consistency due to not having full pre-seasons, and his defensive pressure are his weaknesses. When he's actually in full flight and not injured, he just wins the ball. I remember there was a game, an Anzac Day game. It might have been on 2021, actually, where I think he had 30 possessions to half time, or it was 28 or 29. It was something insane. I can't remember. You guys might remember what the game was. But he's just a natural ball winner, and not everybody can do that. We see so many players on, that I've actually done reviews on so far. Like I did one on Archer Day Wicks, who's, we hope can, improve, but he's a bit of a borderline player at the moment. And one of the criticisms was he just sort of can't get involved in the game, can't win the ball. Some players just naturally know how to get the ball, and Parish is one of those. And he's just a natural sentiment, really. He's a very good player, and I'd love to see him get back to his best because we do need it. I haven't heard any reports about injuries of him over the last 8 to 10 weeks or so since the season ended. So I guess no news is good news. So I think we can all assume, hopefully, that he will be right after a strong preseason, and he does need a strong preseason, that he'll be right to go all guns blazing. And at the age of 28, he's right in the peak of his career, and he really needs to give us that investment back on that large contract that he signed, because this thing is a two-way deal. We've done our job by giving him a fair bit of money and some good long-term security. Now, if he can get on the park, it's really time for him to step up and deliver like he did a few years ago when he was an All-Australian. The questions I've got of him, obviously the first one, and the one that is on the lips of all of us, is can he recapture that form that he showed in 2021? And also in 2022. He played 16 games in 2022, averaged 30.5 possessions in 2021, 31 possessions in 2022. And in 2023, he wasn't bad either, and then the injury started to hit. Can he recapture that 2021 form when he was at the best, when he was in the best form of his career, when he was an All-Australian? Can he get over his back and calf problems? I'm assuming this is the case. I have got faith in our new fitness boss. I've got no evidence for that faith. It's more just blind faith. But, we've made the change, and you make the change hoping to get results, of course. And I'm backing on Matthew Innes to get Parish right and get his body right for the 2026 season. The third one is, can he add more goal kicking to his resume? Right, at his best, he's a high possession player. Just looking at the amount of goals he's kicked, he's played 165 games and he's kicked 55 goals. So he kicks 1 goal every third week. The really, really good midfielders kind of average with a really good, I mean, the genuinely good ones can average a goal a match, like a Patrick Cripps, someone like that. I'd like to see him average somewhere between half and 1 goal a game, say 0.75 of a goal a game. Currently, it's a third of a goal a game. He gets, 0.33 essentially, not to put a number on it or anything, but he kicks a goal every 3 weeks. I'd like to see him double that essentially and kick 2 goals every 3 weeks, right? 0.66 of a goal, if you like. I think that would be a good return on someone that gets the ball as much as he does. And it's important for midfielders to hit the scoreboard. The really, really great ones, you always associate them with popping up for a goal a match and kicking 20 goals for the year. I'd love to see him kick between 15 and 20 goals for the year. The most goals he's ever kicked in a season is 12. And since he got moved right into the middle of the ground in 2021, the most amount of goals he's ever kicked is 10. I'd like to see him increase that because he is a pretty reasonable kick for goal. And I think this would be an extra string to add to his bow and kind of make him a complete player. He's still got, a lot of work to do. He's been injured and he hasn't recaptured that form for a few years now. But look, he's not over the hill. He's still 28. I would expect that he can not necessarily improve, because I don't think you improve at the age of 28, but after a regression of a couple of years, I think it's reasonable to assume that he can get back to, if not that All-Australian form, but something at least resembling it. So I'm going to leave it there. What do you guys think of Darcy Parish? Do you agree with my assessment? What things do you expect out of him? Do you agree that adding more goals to his game would be well, obviously we want that, but do you think that's a realistic ask for him to maybe double his goal output? I think it's a realistic ask. And how do you see his role in the team next year? I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a great day. And as always, go Bombers.